Thanks to the EA Creator Network for giving me exclusive access to College Football 26 so I can teach you how to read any defense before the ball is even snapped. This is one of the most important skills for winning more games, and most players never even learn it. And with still no baseline, reading defense is super easy, as long as you know what to look for. So in this video, I'll show you the 3 steps to read every defense, and then how to beat every single coverage with ease. Just remember though, the version you're watching is still considered a work in progress. Alright, let's start with step 1 to reading any defense: counting safeties. This will help you separate defenses into the 1 high or the 2 high category. If you see your opponent has only 1 high safety, they could either be in a cover 3 or a cover 1 defense. If you see 2 high safeties, they could either be in a cover 2, cover 4, or cover 2 man defense. Now that you know how to count safeties, it's time for step number 2, finding out whether the defense is man or zone. And we'll use motion and formation flipping to do it. The easiest way to tell if a defense is a man is to motion a receiver across the field and see if a defender follows them. If the defender stays put or bumps out, that's almost always zone. This is the same case for a flip. So if they have a single high safety and the corner follows, it's cover 1. But if the corner doesn't follow, it's cover 3. And if they have 2 high safeties and the corner follows, it's cover 2 man. Otherwise, it could be either cover 2 or cover 4. So when the motion doesn't give it away, the next thing to check is the cornerback depth. If they're in a zone defense with 2 high safeties and the outside cornerbacks are at 7 to 10 yards of depth, they're in a cover 4. And if the corners are at 5 to 6 yards of depth, they're in a cover 2 defense. Now the concepts I showed you, although simple, could become difficult to memorize. So I've constructed a flowchart that covers pretty much everything you need to know. In step 1, we simply determine whether or not there are 1 or 2 safeties up top. If there is only 1 safety up top, we move to step 2, where we determine if they're in man or zone. If we use motion and the defensive backs follow our receivers, we know they're in a cover 1. Otherwise, if they stay, they're in cover 3. If they have 2 high safeties, we then proceed with step 2, where we use a motion or a flip to determine if they're in man or zone. If the corners follow our receivers, they're in a cover 2 man defense. Otherwise, we move to step 3. In step 3, we look at the outside corners. If they're at about 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, they're in a cover 2. If they're 8 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, they're in a cover 4. And that will work 99% of the time in identifying defenses. So feel free to take a screenshot so you can have this flowchart handy. Now that you've mastered the basics, let's talk about some of the more advanced coverages, ones you won't see every game but can throw you off if you're not ready. The defenses I'm talking about are cover 6 and cover 9, where cover 6 is a cover 4 based defense on the strong side of the field and a cover 2 on the short side of the field, while cover 9 is the reverse. They both are a 2 high zone-based defense, but the cornerbacks are at different depths. If the corner on the strong side, the side with more defenders, is at 7 to 9 yards of depth, and the corner on the weak side is at 5 to 6 yards of depth, you're playing a cover 6. If the corner on the strong side is at 5 to 6 yards of depth, and the weak side corner is at 7 to 9 yards of depth, you're playing cover 9. Great players don't just recognize coverages, they beat them. So let's break down how to attack each one, beginning with cover 3. Now a cover 3 defense has weaknesses in the middle seam area, then the space above the flat zones and beneath the deep zones, and between the safety and the outside corners. To attack the seams, simply put streak routes on slot receivers on the wide side of the field. These will almost always be wide open chunk yardage. To attack both the flat zones but beneath or outside the deep zones, you can use a corner route on the wide side of the field, but stem down from a compressed formation. This will hit the sweet spot for chunk yardage, and they have no chance to user it. To attack the space between the safeties and outside corners, use plays with stock fade routes. Pair them with a streak and a corner inside of them to hold the other zones, and the fade can become a wide open touchdown. Now let's move to the other common single high defense, cover 1. Most cover 1 defenses are by default shaded outside. So the easiest way to attack this style of defense is with in-breaking routes like drags, slants, posts, and basic old in routes. Now we're moving into 2 high safety defenses, and the first one you'll need to know how to beat is cover 2 man. Cover 2 man is a shaded inside underneath pressed defense. So to beat it, we want to use out-breaking routes like zigs, stem down corners, and speed out routes. And since your tight end and halfback will be unpressed in most offenses, it's best to use them as well. TE crossers and halfback Texas routes are great versus this defense. Now let's move to beating cover 4 drop. Cover 4 drop has 3 key weak spots: the seams, the space underneath the deep outside zones, and the gap between the hook zones and the flats. To exploit the seams, you can once again use streak routes from slot receivers on the wide side of the field and throw it early in the play. To attack underneath the deep outside zones, use stem down corners or stemmed up speed outs that break just under the outside quarters. The best way to exploit the gap between the hook zones and flats, pair a flat pulling route with something like a zig, a hitch, or a return route that settles behind it. That will be wide open every time versus cover 4. Last up, we're breaking down how to beat cover 2. It's another 2-high zone, but the responsibilities are completely different from cover 4. Cover 2 has 3 key weak spots: the middle underneath the mid-read zone, deep between the safeties, and the space outside the safeties but over the flats. To hit underneath the mid-read, use simple drag routes. They get open fast and give you a chance to turn it upfield after the catch. To split the safeties deep, run a streak from your tight end or slot and pair it with a corner route. The corner pulls the deep half away, leaving the streak wide open. The same corner route also attacks another soft spot just outside the deep half and over the flat zone. Perfect for chunk plays. And if you really want to bomb it downfield, pair an inside streak with a slot fade route. Wait late in the play and throw it outside for a huge gain. In a spread out set or trip set, try streaking your tight end and also your outside receiver. If timed right, the outside streak route can turn into a one-play touchdown. Now that you can read and beat every defense in college football 26, it's time to level up the rest of your game. Click the next video to learn how to become truly elite, whether you're a beginner or already competitive.